Okay, could I call the meeting to order, please?
Yes, sir.
Yes, I again would aim for 9 o'clock.
Yeah, slowing you down tonight, Joe.
Chairman's comments. I have nothing to say tonight. So
Why
far.
we put it in the agenda, that you wouldn't speak.
We have the review and approval of the minutes. And I know Larry's had a chance to go through and Cliff.
Yeah.
And has everybody else had a chance to read the minutes? Have a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll make the motion.
Second,
Motion has been made and seconded to approve the minutes of last meeting. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Next item on the agenda is the updated schedule.
Joe, can
Actually, yeah.
can introduce Chris Quinn?
Yeah,
Yes.
why don't we do introductions,
let's-
because you're two newbies here.
Yes,
Oh, that's right. I do have another
sorry,
one.
I was thinking of that myself, but
You get to start, because you're the chairman.
okay, I will introduce, because we do have two new people tonight. I'm Joe Perry, Chairman of the Board of Selectmen in Raleigh and the Chairman of the Pine Grove School Renovation Committee.
Cliff Pierce, Board of Selectmen.
Larry White, Chairman, Finance Committee.
Dennis Roy, Finance Committee.
Nurse Wallen, School Committee.
Chris Walsh, Facilities Manager, Triton Regional School District.
Chris Nealon, Principal, Pine Grove School. Erica Geyer, 5th grade teacher.
Emma Hunt, 2nd grade teacher.
Michelle Cresta, School Business Manager for Triton.
I'm Chris Quinn, Senior Project Manager with WT Rich Company, and your construction manager.
And John Richardson, Doran Whittier Architects.
Larry Berger with Pink & Company.
Andrea Lombardi with Pink & Company.
Margaret Wood with Pink & Company.
James Dombrowski with Pink & Company.
Brad Dorr, the Doran Whittier.
Welcome to
Get me every time.
both of you. Glad you're on board, and hopefully we'll get a chance to talk. Okay, now we can go on.
Joe, can I just add one thing?
Yes.
So, for a bunch of people who are on the CM selection committee, I think know that W2 Rich was selected, and that Chris is going to be the project manager for W2 Rich. Chris, you are both a parent, and I think also your wife is involved with the school. Do you know all these folks? Have you-
Yes, I was just saying.
Not
My daughter had to
relating.
say hello.
Okay, so you're familiar. with
Yes,
it.
yes.
Okay. And I just want to add, Larry, when we came and interviewed for the project, we had a gentleman with us named John Titus, who subsequently left the office. So John would be, partner to, John's role is to be a partner to Andrea throughout the project. And we've been waiting for Larry to be available to come and introduce him. So this is his opportunity to come and listen to all of you, and then we'll make a formal introduction at another time so that you can all get a chance to know him a little bit better.
Okay. Schedule update. So we thought it would be great if we created a different type of schedule instead of the bar chart that we've been looking at for the last couple of months. We thought, since it's similar to the school district calendar, do you need more?
Two more, please.
Yeah. It kind of looks like a school calendar. We thought this would be kind of a way to make it look easier to recognize.
Thank you.
So we've made our second submission to the MSBA was on January 4th for the PSR, the preferred schematic report, went in on January 4th. And then I wanted to show you that we have booked the next few, all the way through pretty much the end of April, of the school building committee meetings are in green. So that's in our calendars all the way through the beginning of May. And then the next couple of MSBA submittals that are due, which is February 15th, which is the submittal for the schematic design. And then we have,
No,
I'm sorry, the
DES.
DESE Department of Educational,
Elementary,
Secondary Education, thank you. And then May 18th, we'll be submitting the schematic design for the MSBA review, which then is the board meeting for the MSBA on June 28th. And then we have the town actions, which are March 9th, which is what we want to talk about a little bit towards the end of our meeting tonight about, we had it scheduled, I think, for the 16th, but we think it would be better if we move it to the 9th, and we'll talk about that once we get into the community outreach section. And then May 1st is the town meeting, and then that should say May 9th, town vote. So I thought this was helpful, and then we'll just be adding dates on things for the subsequent, for little meetings in between. We'll start adding those on as well as we go. Is there anything you want to add, Dora Whittier, to this that you think we've missed? Dates?
Well, we'll talk about the community engagement meeting and the timing of that, just.
Right, we moved it a little bit, but we
in
think.
the middle of when we anticipate pricing occurring.
Right. So,
Andrea, April 20th that's the week of school vacation.
You were gonna move
oh,
it forward.
yeah.
Pardon me?
Actually, I'm away that day, too. College, we have to go to college
Interestingly enough, I
campuses.
have Brian coming to visit the school that day at 1 o'clock. I don't know what that's about.
Really? Okay, so we'll look to move it to the 13th or the 27th, but we'll,
Yeah.
as we get closer, we'll see. Think about that, where are we? Okay. When we get into March, we can decide we'll move that meeting to whatever day works better, whatever week works better, but I'll make a note. Okay, next item on the agenda, we talked about the MSBA submission on January 4th, and then it brings us right into the interpretive bulletin that was handed out at the last meeting, and the community outreach. And I'm not sure if Jane's here yet. Anybody have any questions or comments on the handout that was handed out the last meeting?
There she is. We can make you a seat.
There's no chairs, I get to leave, right?
Good.
Sorry.
Squeeze in here if you want.
That's extra.
Do you want to start the?
Oh, okay, we're gonna talk about. So, I wasn't, at the last meeting, but I know Andrea handed out the interpretive bulletin for everybody for homework, is that right? Did you do your homework? Did anybody find it helpful? I think we always find at this point, as we start to talk about community engagement, people who are in the position of being in the building committee or the elected officials tend to have questions about, what they can and can't do within the bounds of the elections regulations. So that was the intent of providing that to you. Did anybody have any questions coming away from reading that? Okay, sounds like you've mastered it. So the next thing we were going to do, there's a one-pager, it's loose, right, that we wanted to talk a little bit about the community engagement strategy. So right now, what's happening is that Dora and Whittier is engaged in developing the preferred
Schematic.
the preferred schematic. Sorry, I need a cup of coffee. Developing the preferred schematic that was in the PSR. And so going forward from this meeting, we're going to be focused on looking at the development of their design and the development of pricing in tandem. So this seemed like a good moment to kind of inject the community engagement piece, because we've touched on it at a couple of previous meetings. So what's here, I call it a toolkit. It's really a list of different ways to engage in the community. And every community is different, so there's no one particular way to do this. Raleigh is a small community. Pretty much everybody knows everybody, which I discovered today because we came in and somebody said, "You're not from here. Do you need help?" It immediately directed us to a place to get a cup of coffee. So, obviously, in a situation where everybody knows everybody, the folks who are on the committees supporting this project have important voices because people see you representing the town. What I'd like to do is to go through this toolkit and sort of just very briefly, I'm going to sort of hit the categories, and I would like to hear back from you all about what you think for Rowley, from what you know about Rowley, are going to be the best strategies for informing folks in the public. Does that make sense?
It does, but I would disagree with you. Everybody doesn't know everybody.
Okay.
I would say that's very, very untrue.
Okay.
I think there's factions of people, people who have lived in Raleigh for a long time and have relatives and have common activities are one group.
Yeah.
And then I think people whose kids have grown up together and have had common activities and sports activities together know each other. But I think that's kind of, I think you've got a lot of different factions. Because I just walked in and I think these are play parents out there, and I bet I knew one person out there because my kids have been gone from Pine Grove School for a number of years. So I think that's not an accurate statement.
Okay. I stand corrected.
Who was you again?
But I do think, I would say that what is the point that you make, though, supports my other statement, which is that individuals here know certain groups of people. So you know the folks that your kids went to school with. Jane knows the folks that her kids are in school with now. The teachers probably know several, I won't say generations of kids, but
Well, I know some other ones because I grew up here, so
Right.
I have other connections.
And
Exactly.
I currently live here, so I
Yeah.
know it's my child. I know everyone just based on my
And
job.
Christine knows everybody, right?
I see all the families.
I think that the point is, as we're talking about this, and we talked a little bit about, Joe and I, before the meeting, were talking about the fact that when we went to the facility subcommittee meeting, one of the members of the facility subcommittee meeting made the point, well, I hope you're talking to the seniors, which I think Joe kind of immediately jumped on, as some recognizing that, the seniors vote. They're not necessarily going to be coming to these meetings, but we need to kind of reach out. So everybody's got their own constituency, I would say. So as we go through this, it would be helpful for you to think about who your constituency is and who those folks are that you want to make sure have information about the project and what the best way to get it to them is. So, okay, so like I said, I think I'm gonna hit the kind of highlights here, and then I would like to hear from folks what they think are the places where the committee should be focusing and taking action. So there's the website. So we have a little bit of a website, but it doesn't have a ton of information on it right now and not much of an explanation. It is basically a place where documents related to the project are held. So that is a place that we could kind of beef up on the town's website or on the school's website with more information about the project. So talking points, I think deciding what the main items are that are the things that you would, that people in the community should know would produce value in the project, and what those talking points are. Developing a brand, which is something Brad had brought up at a previous meeting about having a lawn sign or a sort of name for the project that people would recognize. Is there an example that you had?
Save the page.
Save the page.
Triton, yes, when we did Triton.
Was it, what was
Triton,
it?
yes.
Triton, yes, yeah, exactly. Focusing on the undecided voter and making sure that here I say the lazy voter, but the folks who who are less likely to come, show up and recognize the value of the project, and there's a bunch of different ideas about how to do that. Develop the following for distribution, so one, I have an example of a fact sheet that we used on another project that has kind of a range of information. And then utilizing the parents as some of the most, I think, committed participants in this to help do outreach amongst the parent group. So, are there ideas out there that I've missed? Are there other things that we should be adding to the toolkit?
Well, I'd like to talk about the talking points. It seems to me the first talking point should be that the school is old and it needs to be updated, and to explain what exactly is wrong with it.
Yeah.
And in terms of, as far as maintaining and ensuring property values, I'm not sure that that's even a major point. I'm not sure that that's why we're doing this. We're doing this because we have an outdated school, number one, that needs renovating.
Yeah.
And also because there's state money available to do that at this particular time. So those are the points I think we should identify. Property values is really a double-edged sword, because high property values may cause some people to leave the town. It may prevent people that were raised in this town to leave, because they can't afford it anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, we've seen that in other towns that have become very affluent. So I'm not sure if that should be stressed as a major point.
Okay. Well, that's helpful feedback.
Enhanced community use.
Enhanced community use.
I guess I just have a comment, just based on my experience in, helping to shepherd the Page School through and what we had to do in our town, is that it's very hard, there's people out there that are never going to be for the project for whatever reason. And it's going to be very hard to turn them. That's just, where it is. And, everybody has their right to their opinion. But I think, in terms of trying to have this be a successful outcome, a real large part of the focus has to be on ensuring the people that would be supportive of the project come out. Because, what ends up happening is people, think it might happen, and they're for it, but they don't get out and deal with it. And those are the people really that you've got to get. Because the people that aren't for it, it's going to be very hard to turn them. They're just never going to turn. So don't, you want to get all the facts out there, but that wouldn't be where I would focus my attention. My focus would be to rally the people, right, that would be supportive and get them out.
In other words, young voters for whom it's inconvenient to vote on the noon before voting schedule.
Yeah, or people who are just kind of apathetic about the whole thing. There's lots of people who, call it apathy, call it lazy, call it whatever you want, but you really got to get that rallying cry out there and figure out how to get them there.
It's not a noon to 4 voting schedule. It's noon to 8.
It feels like noon to 4.
Well, it is what it is.
Yeah, I know. My husband usually doesn't get home from work until 8, so it's very hard for him to get.
Can I ask, what is your usual turnout at town meeting?
It depends.
At town meeting,
Widely varies.
it depends. We had about, 250 to 300 people at our special town meeting,
Back in
and that was
September,
a
right?
lot, because there was a very contentious issue on the warrant. Sometimes we have a hard time getting a quorum
Of 100.
of 100. Sometimes we have, people will have 200 people, and, once whatever they're interested in is over, half of them leave.
Yep.
So it really depends on what's on the warrant.
Do you have a sense, I don't know if there's anything else on the warrant for this coming May. Does anyone have a sense of whether is this the big item on the warrant?
Yes,
It'll be the big one.
it will be the biggest item, but it won't be the only item.
But this will probably draw a lot of people, be my guess.
Yes.
I think we'll be closer to 300 than 100. to be honest with you.
That and the overall Triton budget, which people have come up to me and said that they don't like the Triton budget as it stands, but they would
maybe reluctantly vote for it, but as far as, if the renovation keeps going the way it is at 35 million, they're not gonna vote for it at all. So, I think we
Which
need to.
constituency is that?
Mainly the people that are Council on Aging, some of the other groups that I go to.
Do they not like the previous year's Triton budget, Larry? Because there is no budget this year yet.
But there is no formal budget, but basically the enrollment has been declining and the budget has been increasing. So their contention is you can't have both. You either, you have to rein in the Triton overall budget.
You have to keep that open, right?
To have any sort of credibility on the renovation project. The way it stands now, it's untenable. The people are, that, I don't necessarily go up to them, but they come to me and say, you gotta be kidding.
We're not asking for an override for the Triton budget, though, are we? That would make things more contentious, I would think, if we're actually asking.
We're
for
not
an
at that
override.
point yet.
Yeah.
But if the Triton budget is not, we'll say, level funded, especially with the decreased enrollment that looks like they're gonna have, you lose your credibility.
So maybe that needs to be part of, maybe we need to take that back to school committee as part of the larger messaging. I think there was a lot of understanding around the charter school question that was on the last state election, about this understanding of when you lose, 4 kids in a classroom, you're not losing a teacher, you're not heating a classroom, you're not, shutting down electricity, you're not having, sufficient number of textbooks. Just because you're losing 4 kids in a given classroom, it doesn't mean that your costs are decreasing by per student cost. So maybe that just needs to be part of a larger messaging that we talk about around the Triton budget this year.
Well, and part of the problem with the town is the town can only raise taxes so much. You have a 2.5%, and then you have your new growth. And what happened last year was the Triton budget took not only all of that money, but additional. So the town, was worse off than it was the year before.
So to be fair about that, though, the total assessment increase was 2.25%, which was actually less than what I believe Joe had quoted us that was new revenue. But the way that the state calculates the assessments across the 3 towns was what hiked that way up for Rowley.
Right, but we're one of the towns. I mean, we're part of the bank for Triton, and we can only afford what we can afford. So, you need to work within our budget as well, because the town needs money to grow things as well. So there's got to be, that perspective.
That's why I'd love to get the regional agreement changed calculation-wise.
This was the issue we're bringing to the selectmen recently.
Right. Yes,
about
exactly.
The regional agreement being something that is not equitable right now, and the way the state is applying the funding is not helping you either.
Right.
So I just want to say, I live in this building probably 60 hours a week, if not more. And if we don't go through with this project, at some point, we're going to wind up shutting down the building. It's becoming unsafe. And I think that's the message that the public needs to hear.
Well, at some
front part of the stage is cracked. I noticed that tonight. The wood
You
is
have no
cracking,
idea
you
what
know.
we have dealt with, and
Cracked.
Chris, you are a witness to this because you get called when I get called. The amount of repairs that have gone on since July 1st up through yesterday are astronomical, and we're just Band-Aiding this building. I'm literally afraid that something dangerous is going to happen. I'm being very transparent about it. So if we don't take advantage of the MSBA at this point, what's going to happen in 3 years is that the town of Raleigh is going to have to pay the whole bill.
Right, which is
Instead of
That's
paying
probably
out,
the-
which is
that's
what
probably
Ed
the
said.
best
We're gonna
message.
pay-
Absolutely.
That's probably the best
And I'm
message.
really being passionate about this because
That's
I
your best
live in this
message.
building. I breathe the rotten air in this building every day.
Pay half now,
Absolutely, and I
pay
think
all
that's what
later.
Cliff
That's your
said,
sign right
You know,
there.
I think
Yeah.
that's gotta be, the messaging is, you know, show the bad stuff, you know,
Right.
show the pipes, show the boiler.
I mean, we had a repair over the weekend where the gentleman from Industrial Boiler almost had to be sent out in ambulance because of a steam leak down in the boiler room that he almost passed out. I mean, that's just not okay. So the other thing I wanted to mention was last night we had our kindergarten orientation for parents for next year. And Erica was there as a future kindergarten parent. Her daughter will be coming, joining us next year. But I brought up the building project because parents were asking lots of questions about enrollment and so forth. And I just happened to say, how many of you are aware that we are going through a possible building renovation? And less than half those hands went up. The hands that went up are parents that currently have kids in the school. So I was shocked at how many people did not know what was going on. So all I did was state the facts. I did not say get to the polls or anything.
Right.
People said, when do we vote? I said it'll be in May, but I stated the facts. So I educated probably 45 to 50 Raleigh parents last night, maybe more, I forget. It was a packed house.
And people are really like curious and interested in finding out more.
Right.
So
To that end, right, again, I think, you know, my experience was very similar to what we experienced when we had our public meeting. Right? It was fairly, to be fair, right, a fairly lackluster performance. And we
Attendance.
Yeah.
Right. The performance was great.
We were great performers.
Okay. For the 7 people that were there.
Yeah, right, we had more people at this table than we had there.
Right.
And so it's that awareness thing. So, you know, again, where we were successful is we just had signs everywhere. So you couldn't go through town without knowing that something was going on. Whether you liked it or not, pick your horse. But then people know that it's going, and then people know that they can come to the meeting so they can learn about it. Because otherwise, you're going to have this meeting, whatever it is in March, and you're going to get 9 people again. And then you're going to raise your hand, or you're going to talk to these people, and you're going to say, holy smokes, 45% of them or 50% of them didn't even know we were doing it. So you've got to get that out there. And unless everybody's watching local public cable, right, which they're not, which makes me feel better, right, because we're always on cable. But you've got to get that awareness out there, and signs really did the trick for us. You know, people they see them. You know, you get them out, their lawn signs, you get momentum.
I think that's a good idea. But I think you have people who are going to vote yes.
Yep.
You have people who are going to vote no.
Yep.
I think the ones you need to target are those in the middle that you
Or
could
who are not
persuade.
aware, to Christine's
Right.
point.
Don't generally show up for the election.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, people who say, oh, you know, my taxes are high, but then they look and say, oh my God, that's, you know, the condition of the school is terrible. You know, we really need to do this.
The yeses are the people that you can start to get the signs out now. And then people become aware, and then you're going to get more no's and more yeses. Don't focus on the no's. You're not going to turn them. Then you got to go and get more yeses. So those people in the middle, like you're talking about, those people that you can turn, then get a sign on theirs, and get a sign on theirs, and get a sign on theirs.
Well, last year, we got out the vote for the $800,000 for the feasibility study. And we also got the police and fire passed on an override. We didn't do signs, but we did, it was the PTA. They did it. They were, I would say, probably 95% or more involved, and they were the ones that put us over the top. And they did a fantastic job, and the support was just fantastic. We did it, and it was as I wanted, I asked several times, and I wanted not only for the feasibility study, but we had to ask the police fire, and they worked with us on both.
They actually wanted to do science, they just ordered them too late. It turns out the timeline was longer than they intended.
Well,
it was an accident. They tried.
But now's the time,
Yeah.
right? The sign's not going to change. It's
That's
going to be the
right.
same
Renovate
thing
Pine-
on the sign.
renovate Pine Grove.
Whatever it
That's
is,
basically
right?
it.
The sign's good, but you get more awareness.
But I believe you also have to address the people that are 30 and under that don't have children at Pine Grove. Because, you know, they, along with the elderly, are the ones that you have to kind of persuade. And I think one of the things on the frequently asked questions is not have everything positive, but why aren't we getting a gym for $35 million? And say, you know, we'd have to tear down 2 walls and it would cost another $3 million, and it's not in the budget.
Yeah.
You know, why aren't you doing thus and so? You know, but why do we need it? Type of a thing. You know, the boiler's failing. You know, we've had to spend X number of dollars on it, but you know, not have everything positive and rosy, but kind of, you know, Pine Grove is on its almost last leg, and we've got to do something.
Yeah, I mean, I think those are the kind of pictures you want on a website, is you want pictures of here's what it is now.
Right.
Because, I mean, it's bad.
I think too, just thinking about a plan, I'm thinking that we need to come up with the project name, like you're saying, like some brand type of thing before we move to the signage, because I think it would be
Oh, you gotta figure
worthwhile.
that one out first.
We could even like grab, you know, people we were talking about, we can start to brainstorm with other teachers in the building, some of the creative ones too, you can do that as well. But then also I think even having like, coming up with a sheet, like 1-page type of thing with like the key things, because even my husband's a plumber in the town, and he's already talked to and informed quite a few people about this building project. He talks to Joe, you know, he likes to talk, he's a talker, but he would totally show up at someone's house and being 28, if they don't have kids or whatever, he would be handing people left and right these things and talking it up, but that's like, you know, something that he could do and hand out, and other people can do in that way as well.
I know we sent out a backpack notice. I don't remember if that was the fall we did that. Maybe that was early. Maybe we need to do another one.
Probably.
This time, now that we're further into the project, and those get to all of our students in the school. It's not going to get to the students who are in the middle and high school, or the
You know,
students who are
I'm
here
not
yet.
sure that you can do backpack notices for a ballot initiative.
We
can-
did them for
We
spring
did it
meeting
for the
last year.
community.
Through
We did
could
spring
be
meeting.
through PTA.
Well, there were 2 versions of the one that we did last spring for a town meeting. We did one that was the PTA version, which had a more overt slant toward funding the $800,000. Then there was the fact sheet that went out through the school and was posted on the school website and whatnot. That was a more, here's the fair and balanced opinion. So I think, once again, if we take that dual approach, where if the PTA can take the more overt approach, and I'm sure they will.
Yeah.
And we have a more fair and balanced approach that goes out through the school. I think that's acceptable by all terms
Yeah.
of the state stuff. There were 2 versions. One had the PTA logo, the other one had just the Pine Grove logo, I think is the way we differentiated it.
I think now that we're further in and we have more
Yep.
details.
On the meeting on March 9th, will we have the first view of what the school could look like? Do we expect to have like floor plans then? Because that's the big draw. If you can show people pictures, come see what the school can look like. That's, not to put pressure on you, but
No,
hey.
that floor plans are not
Come on.
a problem. We're gonna have those anyways.
I don't care about electrical, just, show me where the pretty stuff is.
Yeah, but it's a renovation, so you don't have those same types of drawings as if you were doing, a different type of. It's going to be the same school. We can give representative, views of a classroom and those things. But part of, the sell to a certain extent is that we're trying to be very minimalistic. I understand where's kind of the sexy thing that you can put out there.
But even if you show something like, the revised parking plan,
Sure.
which
Oh, yeah.
everybody
That's
says,
a huge
oh,
seller.
Well, we're going to talk about that later tonight.
The extended learning areas, the STEAM lab, those types of things I think would be intriguing to the parents, and I think we should
And
get that
even
out there.
just, finishes,
Oh, yeah.
like, here, look, the carpet would all match. It could look like this.
Yeah, you can have
Not
the
necessarily
new
final.
and the kind of the here we are today and here's what it's going to look like tomorrow for
Before and after.
representative
Picture of an
stuff.
ADA compliant toilet.
Yeah,
That's a
good
vote
stuff.
right there.
So we've done,
Yeah.
One other
sort of
thing.
those handouts on many projects.
Oh, yeah.
Usually most projects, because they usually leverage our renderings and our plans, and so we're happy to work on that. We're graphic designers too, so we can do the layout and.
But I think that's how you get people to the meeting.
And we can
They,
do- we can
come
do
look
that.
at it, come touch if we can get, samples, come touch the carpet tile, come
We've got
see.
lots of carpet tiles.
Yeah, just They're the real ones, okay, Brad? Come on, don't fake it. But
No,
We have
lots of real ones.
Margaret, that's how you get people excited, like, oh my gosh, instead of having this cruddy, what is this, mauve? I don't even know what this is. You know, mold.
It was.
Was it white? Oh God, please don't say that. Not cool.
Well, one other thing on your messaging, right? And I think, Larry, you just kind of said this, is that, you know, when you talk about $35 million, you're talking about the total project cost. And you know, that's a big number for sure for Rowley. But I think the message really needs to get focused on what's the Rowley cost.
Right.
Right? And the Rowley cost is significantly less than that. It's still a big
Buy one half,
number.
get one half free is the messaging that went out, I think, in the PTA, as part of the PTA stuff last spring.
Right.
Which,
Buy one,
you know,
you get one free.
buy one half, get one free.
Right. So-
Buy one half, get half free.
Because it was $11 million you had for the fire police station, something around?
11.2.
Right, so, you know, people are pretty good at doing the math, and they say 35, and they're like, that's 3 times what we just paid for the fire station.
But
And
it's also like 8 times the building.
yeah, but I'm saying, my point is, it's not 3 times.
Right.
You know,
Right.
it's not even 2 times.
No.
Yeah.
So that's
But
really,
But
It's
as
18
Shane said just before, that what we have to, what our major selling point, I see, is that if we don't go for the override now, if we're not going to have the state pick up half, then we're going to pay the whole bill in 2 years or thereabouts.
And that would be close to 40 or more.
right,
Yep.
17
And if
now
they
or
can get the building and
35
close us
later.
down and we have to totally knock it down and start
Yeah,
over,
40
then
later.
your cost goes up to 50
What else is
something.
gonna happen in
Right.
2
Because
years?
then, kids would have to be transferred to other schools.
Yep.
Margaret, did you do the flyers? I think.
Yeah, so, let me.
Because that looked really good.
This is something I shared with Karen and maybe with Joe previously, so, and it just passed these around. This is, something that we did, actually, I shouldn't say we, the architects. The architects working on another project of ours, and theirs, did for a high school project. So I thought I would pass this around and see if this seemed useful. Karen liked it, I know. You know, the idea here was to have something that was very easy to reproduce, that had all the kind of key background information about the project, including the budget and the reimbursement and the impact to taxpayers, which I think is something, and it went as far as to kind of give, there was a chart of tax rates, and some pretty pictures of what the final thing. So this is something that's quite easy to reproduce. It's a little more than an FAQ. I actually think there's a lot of value in having an FAQ as well. But I would offer it as something that it's easy to do something like this if there's a way to distribute it.
Well, and I like the, here's all the things that are wrong on the first page.
Yeah.
Here's all the things we need to bring up to code.
Yeah.
Because I think that's,
Well, that's what we did in the one that we did last May. So we can also repurpose part of that messaging, because it's basically like, here's a litany of everything that's wrong with the school right now. Boilers are on their last legs, windows are whatever.
Right, but now we've hired professionals
Yes.
to come in and give us
We
the
kinda
official
already did,
list.
yeah, yes.
And maybe
Even more
it might
so.
even be worth to put some little small thing about how much money has been spent on repairs from July 1st to present. Because when you add all that up, that's like half of a teacher, or it could be, that's
Right.
personnel.
Like, see, on that page, it says the need.
Yep.
So, I think that, absolutely. But, I think safety is where you get people.
So,
What if you break out the cost of bringing the building up to code separate from some of the other things? Would that be of any benefit?
Well, that might hurt that.
No chance actually
It's
able
up
to
to
be
date.
Well-
isolated.
Right? We already turned that down, basically.
No, but I mean, it would show at least that
The minimum.
we've got to spend,
We had to
we'll
spend
say,
it anyway.
$27 million just to bring the building up to code. You know, the other $8
Larry,
million.
it's that diagram, right? Have you all seen
Uh,
this? So this
right,
was,
but,
It's option
yeah.
But I mean, the idea was that there
That's-
was, the first column was.
Right,
the,
but I would put it more in words, just so
Sure.
the person understands that, geez, you know, to make the basic repairs are gonna cost X number of $1 million.
Right.
And then the other 7 or 8 million is for improvements which we see need to be done. So, you know, the 35 million or 17 million
Yeah.
is really broken down into, you know, 12 million, 13 million for bringing it up to code. And then the rest is what the school committee people deem as, you know, necessary, like fixing the stage or stuff like that.
Yeah.
So that, you know.
I'm thinking
the-
that may
the
hurt us
person-
though.
Yeah, I mean,
Because
Yeah.
they'll say you got $8 million
We'll
that you.
we'll
that
do the
you-
code and see
Yeah,
if
we
it's-
don't, I don't think we wanna tell them that, you know, we
Just
had
throw
$8
it out
million
there,
yeah.
to spend.
Yeah, but it's
you know.
educational programming too. It's bringing it up to a competitive nature, both with the rest of the district, with the other elementary schools, as well as with, you know, just the way that education is done today. It may not be necessarily necessary to bring the wiring and the Wi-Fi stuff up to code, but can you run a school without it?
Yeah, but you
So
don't
is that
want-
any less
Yeah, you just
necessary?
don't wanna tell people that you could have done it with $27 million.
Yeah.
Right.
There's
You know
a
what
cheaper
I'm saying?
version out
Yeah,
there that we,
yeah. Cause people say,
So we're
let's
going
go
for the
cheaper.
Cadillac, you
Let's
know,
just go
then-
cheaper, we don't care about the other 8 million. So.
So
Well, yeah, and
hopefully
you
no one
definitely want to
watches
put it in
this video.
context.
What was that?
Can we delete that part?
Yeah.
Well, if they watch all the other parts
Yeah.
too, so they know what we're doing.
15 minutes of blank tape. Now, they were probably watching Trump anyway.
I think if we get something out like this sooner than later, I think it would be very helpful. I mean, I think it definitely will generate questions, and if we could get it to everybody in town, I think that's the goal, as opposed to just having it in places where people can pick it up.
Can it go out with the town warrant in May at the very latest?
That would be too late, I think,
Is it too
at that
late?
point.
Right.
I think we
I
got-
don't think you can do that.
Yeah, I
can't
don't
do
think
that.
so.
I don't think it can be
Okay.
the
Yeah.
town. I think it has to be
Yeah.
a third party. Am I correct?
No, you're absolutely
No, I
right.
think
And
that's
so this is the challenge.
This
of
might be
this
something,
is-
would this be something that the newspaper would pick up? I
You
mean, if
can
we
do it
gave
as
them
an
to
insert.
that,
You
sometimes
can do
they
it as
like
an
to
insert.
take information and they could put it in there,
Yep.
and then we
Go
could
for
say
it.
that, you know, this could be at the library or
I
how
mean,
we're gonna distribute it.
How
but-
much would it be to bulk mail this out?
I was just thinking,
But can we do
How
that?
many-
Can we do
Well,
that as
the
a?
PTA can do it.
Right.
The
Yeah.
PTA can do it.
How
I
many-
yeah, I
what's
want to
the
be really
circ-
clear
what's
about
the,
this. The PTA can do it.
How many residents?
How many households?
How many residents in this town?
Well, like, I can tell you it's $1,000 for 6,000.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah.
wouldn't be that many.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
so
never
if-
been back from surveys, so.
Residents,
Okay.
how many households are there?
Yeah,
I want to say 40, for some reason, like 4,700.
Yeah.
The population is a little over 6,000,
Yeah.
so.
6,500, yeah.
So this just may be my little microcosm of Rowley that I live in, but this is kind of my observation, is that I don't see a lot of people getting their information from the newspaper, so I'm not sure that that's a way to
Facebook?
get their way.
Definitely Facebook.
Facebook for part of the population, but, and I think, you know, doing a mass mailing where it goes out to all the households is great, but I feel like Rowley is built in Smards, it's built in the Aquam Diner, it's
Yeah.
it's in Market
Market
Basket.
Basket,
I'm
yeah,
wondering
the
how we can, I mean, you talk about these kind of influencers on your sheet here. I wonder how we can find some influencers that are almost there that can.
I agree, because everybody, you know, this is why I think signs would be important, because you know what? I don't care who you are, you're going to Market Basket.
Yeah.
And you know, you're driving a path to Market Basket.
Yeah.
So
Route
I-
1 liquors.
Are we friendly with the banks? You know, put it in
Yeah.
we are
their lobby.
the institution for savings.
Even the real estate offices, Raleigh Realty, I mean, people,
That's a really good idea.
you know, people look at
Pharmacy.
doctor's offices, the dentist,
Pharmacy.
yeah.
kids, they're so social, the pharmacists.
Kids handing them out.
That, remember my
at
neighbor
Market
Polly?
Basket.
I was gonna say you're
Leaving it there, people aren't gonna pick it up like you would hope
What
they
if
would.
Saturday morning we had like a
That's
Girl
it.
Scout troop or a Boy Scout troop handing flyers out at Market Basket?
Yeah, people actually handing them to
Yeah.
people works.
I may have a Girl Scout troop with 15 sixth graders.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
And Maid, she's very articulate.
again, you gotta, it's kind of, you gotta go beyond the
Get
norm.
to be in the new
You gotta
school.
rally
We
the
still need a new
support.
school. I could totally see her. It would be-
Well, even for your older students, I mean, I have a middle school, high school, they have a community service requirement.
They don't.
You don't have that in Triton?
The athletics do. Athletics might be able to.
But kids would be willing.
Right.
Yeah.
Kids, especially
Oh,
the
And people
sixth
stop
graders
younger
and the
ones.
fifth grade. I know that kids would be willing, especially if we volunteered to to help the kids do it. The
Right.
teachers are gonna be out with them. I'm sure they'd be.
After school.
Yeah, is that
After
allowed?
off school
I mean,
time.
I think it's very
Well,
tricky.
yes, so yeah.
But I also live in the town too.
Right.
So, like, people ask me all the time, like, because I'm friends with a lot of parents, and they'll, like, bring this up, and, like, this is my personal separate time, so I can talk about it as a parent
Right.
from that point of view.
And that's why I point you back to the bulletin, because that bulletin's very clear.
I've read it. It's
Okay.
it's clear. It's clearish.
Clearish.
There's so many like this, but this, and I'm like, oh, and then
Well,
it,
you know,
so.
if you have any specific questions,
Okay.
we can field those questions with their office. They're very good about responding. They want you to feel comfortable being private citizens, especially when you have a secondary role. But, you know, some of these things definitely do drive back to it being easier for the parent community to do. And actually, I was very struck by what Christine and Erica said about the incoming kindergarten parents, and remembering that another huge, well, not huge, but another kind of big potential group of people that needs to know about this are all the people who have kids in preschool right now, right?
Correct.
The folks who will really be affected by
Well,
the
and dropping
project.
things off at the 3 or 4 preschools in town.
I was
is
just
also
gonna say,
pretty
we
easy.
actually have 7
Yeah.
preschools in Raleigh, so.
Right,
Yeah.
you had
So-
told me
Can we
there's
do
no.
it?
Wow.
Right.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
And they could pass this out, since they're not Pine Grove School, they could pass this out.
Absolutely.
You
Yeah, I
could
mean,
pass
you
out
can.
the PTA version.
If
Whereas
we
this
were.
person that goes out through the school has to be the
Just facts.
official
Facts.
fact
Yeah.
version.
Right. If we were to create, you know, something like this, or the FAQ, or both, you could take them, as people have said, to any of these private businesses and ask them to.
Look, I could do that too on my own time, because I do live in town, but I support every local business in the town of Raleigh.
Absolutely.
I mean, and this is factual, I mean, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
It was very deliberately written to be kind of
Yeah.
just the facts.
Yeah.
And to answer questions that people anticipated.
Right.
And it doesn't make it less compelling. So maybe
Not
we
at
do
all.
just do a single version of it. Let's see how factual we can get at. Is that something we need to write?
Well, so I would like to suggest that we would take this as a format and do one of these, something like this for you, taking in the comments we've heard, and obviously kind of rewriting this to reflect what we're hearing. And I think what I would like to ask, I think Jane to do in terms of spearheading this, I think because you are the parent representative here, and because you and Christine and the teachers really have access to the PTA, I think it would be helpful to understand if there are parents in the community who are interested in kind of stepping up and helping organize how this would be done. Because we can help give you some guidance about it, but I think the whole issue of kind of getting stuff out to people and how you do that needs, you know, bodies beyond this group. And then the thing that you were talking about coming up with the logo, the brand, whatever it is, that would be great also. Is that something I can ask? Okay. Consider it asked.
Okay.
And I think like I said, the sooner that we can get something finalized, better, because I know everybody's been signing up for like t-ball, softball, baseball, so that's like perfect opportunities for the conversations just to happen too, and information to be exchanged as well.
Okay.
Is it advantageous to put in the flyer something about what we've already spent so far on building repairs since July 1st?
I definitely would be interested in finding out what that number is.
Michelle?
I will find it for you.
So, you know,
Pretty
just-
good. It's
you
pretty
know, just
high
on
number,
your-
I tell ya.
Right.
And it was exhausted pretty quickly.
It was
Yeah, we're-
exhausted
we're
back in
beyond over
September.
budget already.
I already
So.
went over my line.
Yeah. And I still
Back in
get
the fall.
calls every other
I
day
mean,
from you.
what I'm thinking of is more
Or email.
sort of indicating over time how the district and the town is spending more in a way that's starting to really just
The maintenance costs are exceeding both budget as well as what is reasonable for a building this size. If we don't take the step now to fully correct the issues that are facing us,
right.
it's going to get worse to the point that you lose the school.
Maybe Eric and I and the teachers talk about how it directly impacts our classrooms, the things going on within our walls during the day that, and how it affects the children.
What's that noise? What's that smell?
What's
that
clunking,
water on
what's
the
coming
floor?
out of the heater.
Why is that man in my classroom?
Yeah.
So I don't know the high school well, but is there, does anyone think there might be high school students who would be interested in making a video?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I
Bob
actually
Lathrop.
watched those, the Triton, the video
Y Triton
group.
videos are
Oh
great.
my goodness, I
Yeah.
just love the videos the kids make.
Did
I
you
was
see the one
so
they did in
amazed.
with the stadium?
Yes,
From
that was
beginning to end?
fantastic.
I
It's
didn't even realize
wonderful.
that 3 and 4 year old footage existed.
I mean, they do a really good job, and they're powerful. They're short for the most part, and they get so much information covered. And we actually have Pine Grove students on that. I know Naomi Bell, Abby McGee is on
Yeah.
there.
So who could
Someone
take the
else, too.
lead in figuring out whether there's a teacher at the high school or some, I don't know the programs well enough to know where to go looking, but.
I'm happy to look into that.
It's Bob
Bob
Lathrop.
Lathrop,
Bob
right.
Lathrop,
Yeah, Bob, yeah. I
Alright.
can take that one if you want.
Okay, terrific.
Okay, perfect. You're there.
And we could always have them.
I was gonna
Right,
say
yeah, I'll
that's
talk to
a-
Brian
yeah.
first.
I mean, we have some students who take it, but they could come in.
Yeah, Michelle, let him know that, especially
Might
the
not be
Pine
able to
Grove
give them
Okay.
students. They're welcome
Well,
to
well,
come
they have
back
projects
anytime
they
we
have to do.
can be here to help
You know,
out.
it's
community
Videos,
service.
what they need
No,
to
no,
do.
no, but for VTV.
Oh,
They
right,
have-
right.
They have
Yeah.
independent
Yeah.
projects
Yeah.
that they have to do.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, it's
And
three
Michelle,
I watched.
the thing that I would offer is we can point to them to a whole bunch of good videos that are online that other districts have done.
Okay.
So if the kids want to see examples of what other communities have done to kind of help get the word out, just let me know.
Yeah. That's a good point about maybe getting them doing some selective videotaping. So, like, for instance, everybody just walked through it, the front apron in the entrance to the school. It's severely spalled by excessive salt from corrosion, and now the frost has heaved, our repair that we just had done.
Well,
right out
I
here?
do,
Mhm.
Chris,
We had
I
it-
do want to get that clip of them, of you saying, "Why is this man in my classroom?" That's a keeper.
I see him on a weekly basis.
You bring up a good point though, because the Saturday of the craft fair back in December, at the end of the fair, we had a really significant injury. An elderly woman and her daughter were leaving the building and she wiped out, cut her head open, ambulance had to come and everything. Not good.
Okay.
What's your social media strategy?
Well, I think the VTV, that can go right on Facebook, those videos. That's how I actually started watching. I was like
But
so
can it
hooked
go
on
to the
those
district
videos.
page?
And then you can link them there. You can link them in so many different social media outlets. There's so many of them that you can just link that up. Even put out like, I think if people also just were constantly in charge of putting out blurbs every week, something new information about.
Picture.
Yeah, picture of something, just kind of have like, I guess a variety of things.
Yeah,
that you
there
can
hasn't
just
been a lot of
lay out
information
there.
to really share
Could
today.
the
So
PTA
as we-
share your renovation page on Facebook?
I think they have.
Have
They
they?
have, yeah.
Yeah, I haven't posted a lot of stuff because there hasn't been a lot of news per se. The whole, okay, we decided not to do air conditioning wasn't really compelling news. So, I think as the information, I look at this as we're at the beginning of the process. You can communicate all you want early on until there's actually meat, like here's a picture, here's a decision, here's a budget, here's a whatever. You're just kind of stringing people along. They're going to just scroll past. Once you start giving them meaty content, that's when they start getting engaged with social media. So to date, you know, I don't feel like we're behind, just so you guys know, okay? I've done this for a really long time. We're fine. It's just a matter of getting content once we start having content.
Right.
And we do have a social media specialist at the district level, Katie Lackey. And, I mean, when we had the stadium opening, I was surprised at the amount of people who saw it because it came up. And, you know, I was on it, and they spoke to me about it. I says, "Wow, where'd you see it?" I saw it on the Triton Regional School
Facebook page, that's where I saw it.
Yeah.
Does the elementary school tweet?
We have a Twitter account and we have our own Facebook account, but we don't seem to get a lot of followers. I follow about 4 other people.
It just started for, though. I think
September.
it really did, yeah, so I still think it's fairly new, so to,
But I don't
Can
think
you
it
do a
should be
backpack mail or something in the Thursday email to basically say, when you want current news, beyond just the Thursday email, here's what you need to follow, and then send that out.
But are we allowed to post that stuff
Yeah.
on the?
No, just the Pine
Just
Grove one,
about
not this
following
one.
Pine Grove
And
pages.
then, when we post something to the renovation Facebook page, then it can be re-sent out and tweeted from the Pine Grove page, because that's factual information that you are sharing, that is information about the school, and I think that's acceptable, right?
It's only getting the parent population then. I feel like Facebook has such a wider use for this particular project. I feel like viral is almost the way it needs to go, because that's the way I think a lot of that video went. So it's going to be a matter of people being linked to people being linked to people.
But we need the content first.
I agree.
So that's
I agree.
the thing.
I'm
Until you
just
have
saying, I'm not
content,
sure
you're gonna
driving
do
them
it.
to particular pages is maybe the best use of.
Well, we still want them on the Pine Grove page, because that's a great way to say.
Right, but I have my own Facebook page, so after school hours, am I allowed to send something like that out on my Facebook page?
As long as it's not your Christine Nealon principal Facebook page, is my understanding.
It doesn't say, well, it sort of identifies what I do
no, but it's
for a
not
living.
like the Christine Nealon principal.
Right. Yeah, right.
It's like just
your
Christine.
It's
not my
Nealon.
personal-
You
your
happen to
personal.
have
Yeah, it's my
your
personal.
job.
Right.
Yes.
You know, the picture where your dogs are all
Yeah,
the
where
time.
you always see pictures of my dogs.
I love it.
I'm always liking your
Pretty
dogs.
much what I post, my 2 dogs.
That's all.
Yeah. But I also don't think there shouldn't be just one thing either, so like thinking about all these, I think it needs to be a combination. 'cause
Absolutely. Like, for
that's-
example,
yeah.
right, you're talking about trying to create a buzz,
Mhm.
right? Facebook's the place you go to, right, that people can go, but Twitter's, okay, a different animal. And, you know, the younger you are, the more options there are. And, you know, you don't have to necessarily have content in terms of, you know, what you're gonna put on Twitter, right? It's just about getting, you know, you can say whatever it is you felt that you needed to say in a particular day about, you know, we're doing this, or did you hear? And it's all about creating that awareness, right? The guy
Yeah.
that's getting, you know, brought in tomorrow, whether you like him or not, right? He's had a tremendous amount of success, right? And he doesn't necessarily have to say something, but people just follow it because it's going on. And
Do we
that's,
have Instagram?
And that's what you want.
No, I don't believe so.
Definitely, and
Because
that's like,
Instagram is
even
where
if
the
we
younger
don't,
people
I don't think
are
we have to
right
wait.
now.
Right.
Sure.
I don't think we have to wait for all the information. Like he's saying, like just like as things, like random things that come up or something.
We had a
just to
building, we
start
had a
the
building
excitement.
committee meeting tonight, and we started talking about it, and it was great.
Meet
And if
them
you've got a
after the
social
video.
media specialist,
Yep.
engage them,
Right.
right? Because they're gonna be smarter on this stuff than we are. I mean, I've got 4 kids and I can't peel them off the phone,
Right.
right? You know what's going on, and it just and it keeps going, it doesn't stop, you know? And the parents watch it too.
Hey, Christine, can you let me know when something breaks down here at the school so we can put that up on the Facebook page? Litany, the
There we
litany
go.
of, why not, right? The litany of things that have gone wrong, another
Yeah.
boiler
My
leak
wife
today at
does.
school,
Sure.
another this, another that.
Right.
Because that
Yeah.
shows this long term, it may not be happy, it may not be pretty, but if there's, hey, look, there's a new crack somewhere.
Yeah.
'Cause-
And then if someone joins and happens to happen upon that page, a
That's
month
what will
after
get
that's
you
happened,
viral.
there's a history of all
Yes.
these things, and they can
Okay.
follow the story along the way.
The only thing I worry about that is we do have some parents that would see that tweet or that post and they would call the school and say, should I come pick my kid up? That happens, literally that
No,
does
you should
happen.
get out to the polls though. and
Right,
vote.
I can't say that.
All
Yes,
kids
you
are safe.
can.
Money
Yes,
is being spent.
you're gonna have to start saying that basically.
It's
No,
I'm-
your
I'm
children,
serious.
all
I'm just
children are
stating the
safe,
obvious here.
however,
More money is being spent.
more money is being spent that we could be using on renovations instead.
But you will have to keep the theme that the building is safe to be
It
on.
is, right,
Yeah.
it is.
Yeah, you can't shake confidence.
Exactly.
Right. It's gotta be a
But you also
cautionary
have
tale
to
for
make
the
sure
future.
that you're addressing the parents and not the children. Because addressing the children isn't gonna do any good unless you put in there, please bug your parents to vote for this.
But they all get on to it, right? So, I mean, it's not going to kids, right? It's just there and people follow it. And then once they figured out what it is, then it just goes viral, right?
Well, and I think Brad's point is really that, and it matches up with the point I was making, that the big part of the constituency here should be the 20-somethings who have kids who are coming to school, and the 20-somethings use social media differently than I do, probably you do, and they are probably more likely to use things like Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram.
Facebook's on its way out. It's trending older now. Instagram is where the 20s and 30s are at right now.
As
But
soon
we
as I
also
got on
have
my
to go
Facebook, my
for-
kids were not interested.
I know, pretty much.
Snapchat.
We should also try to go for the grandparents in the area,
Well-
okay, that, hey, you don't have any children there, and stuff like that,
Yeah,
but you've got
fascinating.
grandkids that, are
Absolutely.
going there.
Well, I am putting, because Joe has self-nominated himself to figure out the senior strategy. I am putting Joe
Way
in
to go,
charge of
Joe.
the
Free
senior
pie at the
strategy.
Agawam Diner for anybody who votes yes.
And Joe, if you
Oh, is that wrong?
wanted, I know I'd be happy to go too with you, so that,
I
they
think
can ask
maybe
questions and things.
they're
I think
disconnected
my
from
4-year-old's
what's
well.
happening within the classroom in
Right.
2017. So maybe we can go in and just share what it's like now, what we need, and why this is so important.
I'll have to get you the date. I've
Yeah,
already got
sure.
a date set for the Council on Aging.
Okay.
Okay, great,
And I'm going to set one up for the plantation.
great. We can even bring like a really cute kid to come along and talk about it.
Please, vote yes.
Talk about how he fell in the building and hurt himself.
We had like about
Yeah.
50 people
Be sure to bring a
that
puppy
had these
too.
types of things.
I got
And,
that.
and we went door to door, picked a weekend, went door to door. 50 people, you can canvass an awful lot of people.
I think even faces. If they see a teacher outside of Market Basket or, a group of kids, like Jane was saying, I think that's going to be
Handing out
huge.
the things,
Handing out
and then
the
they can
flyer.
have the conversation, ask the questions, yeah.
I did the Market Basket thing with flyers when I had the Raleigh concerts.
So
I
do you
was
feel like
doing
it
it
was,
by myself. Thousands of flyers.
do you feel like it was,
I thought we got more than we would have.
What about churches? Churches on the list too?
Turkey.
Churches.
Churches.
Turkeys too, yeah.
St. Mary's across the street?
I don't know.
And the
I
other
don't
one.
know.
The public library,
Yeah.
The library, definitely.
because we have a great
Post office.
connection with the, post office.
Her name would be all over that.
Yeah.
She'd love that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm watching the time and thinking that everybody's got some ideas percolating. What we will do is we will go away, taking in these comments and do a draft of what this might look like. I'd like to revisit the conversation at the next meeting, but also it'll be a much more condensed version of this. Feel free to, if you think of ideas about things that didn't come up here, feel free to email myself or Andrea. I would suggest that we don't get into a round robin on email because of the open meeting laws, but we'll be the collectors of ideas and kind of bring them back in summary. Okay. Anything else?
I just one more question, and I don't even know if this is legal, but do we have demographic breakdown on the registered voters in Raleigh? Can we even, I don't know, can that be gathered, or do we have that?
I'm sure you can get that from the town clerk.
I'm just curious what breakdown is when we're talking about.
I'm
Yes, we
pretty
do.
sure if you went to see Susan Hayes, and she could give you that.
Okay.
We have that
mentioned
available.
this. We'll find out what it is and share it with everybody as part of this further discussion. I don't know what it is, but Karen, can you help connect me with the person who would
Susan Hayes and the town clerk?
Susan Hayes, okay.
Yeah.
And Margaret, do you think, even though we don't have the final estimates, maybe from our PSR estimates, you guys could run the actual 3011 calculation?
Yeah.
Because while we talk about, 50% reimbursement, I mean, we're as you go through the process, you're going to have to explain the real nutty details of the MSBA reimbursement.
Right.
And I think, the strength of this project is that we're really maximizing that. But we are going to have to explain, it goes to the gym. We're not allowed to expand the building under this process, this specific process. site will be capped, and so,
Right.
you know, Pink has a lot of experience. You can run through that. There's a specific complicated spreadsheet that helps you calculate that.
Effective rate versus reimbursement
Right.
rate.
Yeah. Yeah, we actually have done a draft of
We
that.
have done that, and we're meeting with Joe next week to give it a little review.
Walk him through it first.
Sure,
as the
sure.
chair of the committee. All right, should we toggle to the next item on the agenda, which is?
Any MSBA paperwork?
Next meeting, I will have that because I have one more bill of yours to get in.
And we
I will
have
that.
Dora Whittier's ready for you this week.
Okay, next week is a bill week, so get anything in to Debbie as soon as possible.
Okay. You hear that, James? So we'll give her 3 invoices.
Did you hear that, Mel?
James?
Yeah.
3 invoices.
Brad's
your way,
watching
Dora.
you.
One of
Okay.
these
We're gonna
days,
put a
one of
package
these days,
together.
we'd like to
Okay,
get
yeah,
paid.
get it into
Right.
Debbie as soon as possible.
Okay. Package to Debbie.
By Monday, I would say.
Yep, and then we'll copy you on the package. If it's
No.
electronic. Do you have to
No.
have hard copies? talked about
I
this
will
before.
get copies, I will get copies from what gets submitted to accounting after it's all properly signed. So don't worry about me.
What about originals?
You don't need originals.
You don't need originals. We talked about that once.
They will need them eventually, so send her electronic and then follow
Follow
up
up
with
with
originals.
original, that's what we talked about, okay. Confirm set future meetings, I guess we can look at the calendar. We have January, what's that, February 2nd. And we'll get the agenda.
These are all Thursdays.
They're all Thursdays, yes.
Is,
Yeah.
on the 16th?
Get kind of clarity on the whole site thing. Sure we know what we're doing.
So that gets us to other, so if you wanna bring up the site, we can bring up
Reverse to
the.
this one.
Well, I think we should just talk about it and just make sure we know. I'll
Alright.
So, the question I was just talking to John about is, you know, we did submit a PSR to MSBA, so that's all good, on time, went pretty smoothly. We also did respond to the questions that they had from the PDP, and they were fairly minor in nature, and, you know, we got a lot of help from Christine and the district, and, you know, so that's all in. So we're all up to speed pretty much with MSBA in terms of submissions. And now we're moving forward to go and develop the actual schematic design based on, you know, option B or option 2, whichever it was. So we're moving down that path. But if you remember, you know, one of the things that we had a discussion on, I'm not completely sure exactly how we landed, but we should just make sure that we're clear, is the approach with respect to site. And so we had talked about the site as being, you know, somewhere in the order of, you know, a couple $1 million. I think it was $2.4 million. And when we originally were informed by the MSBA as to, you know, it would be okay and they would be willing to accept, you know, certain things associated with the site, we started moving down, but we said, okay, if we do that, you know, there's a whole bunch of things that we hadn't initially contemplated by looking at the, you know, just changing the circulation. And so we, you know, we brought, you know, some of the engineering people and, you know, doing some of the geotechnical people. And, you know, I think I referred it to as, do we want to do it, do we not want to do it? And if we do, you know, this is the price of entry in order to figure out. And I think, Dennis, we had talked about it. So, yeah, you know, it's worth that. So now, what I'd like to know is, you know, given, you know, the discussion that we've had with respect to, you know, budget pressure and all of those things, how actually do we want to approach that? Is this something that, you know, we do want to go and pursue and actually go and do all of the schematic design associated with that, recognizing that, you know, that number is in addition to, you know, the original estimate that we had for, you know, the costs associated with the building. What's people's sense of that?
You're talking as putting that as an option, you mean?
As an alternate.
Option,
is what I
alternate
think
one or something?
we talked about when we left it, but.
Well, it goes back, to me, it goes back to the issue that Larry was raising about what the town's tolerance is, the voters' tolerance is for the cost of this project. Because you all have indicated that this project is considerably more than people kind of originally thought it would be. And so I think the question that Brad is asking is if that's true, should we just take the site, the renovation of the exterior space off the table now? And he's asking because they have to launch into further design development of it, and there will be, potentially additional costs associated with that on the other side of the May vote if it were included. So he's trying to get a sense of whether we should continue to do work on it, or it is a good thing to take off the table now and focus the expenditure on the building rather than on the site. So there will be, in this scenario, there will be some minimal site work, but it wouldn't involve a reconfiguration of the parking lot along the lines of what was presented as an alternate.
So what we had, if you remember, that's correct. And what we had is in our budget amount, we had the cost associated with, doing things like, the entry, utilities, and that had been priced really out at that 8% cap that MSBA has. Forget what the number is off the top of my head.
It was about $1 million.
It was about $1 million. So, we had that in there to take care of those types of things. And then in addition to that, it was the $2.4 million to do, the site circulation. So if it was going to be an alternate, the question ultimately would be, even if it was an alternate, we could go forward down that path, but what are you voting for at town meeting? Because, it's hard for me really to imagine that, we go out on bid day after, glass half full, everything gets approved, MSBA approves it, Chris comes in, and says, okay, this is it's pretty close to what you guys thought, that we're gonna save $2.4 million, which would allow us to go forward with that site work alternate. So, I think maybe Cliff, you might have brought it up, maybe it's something that they're two separate, or maybe it was you, Larry, that goes, forward so that you can go and say, all right, one option is to go and do everything in the building, and then another would be to, also if it's the will of the town to go forward and do the site work. But I just want to say, I don't see being able to go and all of a sudden save, $2.4 million on bid day, and then, you're going to be able to do it. I think that's probably just unrealistic.
But are there things within the B option? I recall at the Board of Selectmen meeting,
Yeah.
there was the discussion that, we were going with option B, but perhaps some of the options within that, not including the HVAC,
Like
could be-
windows or something?
Right, could be scaled back. Is the schematics for the exterior within the 800,000 budget for the feasibility study?
To produce those, we're talking different
Yes.
numbers. Our fee to produce those schematic
Yeah.
documents, yes.
Yeah, so that is, we have the landscape issue, but
Right.
that aside, I think the thing here is if we were to go and say, yes, we could do a value engineering type thing like the windows. But again, windows is going to be, maybe it's $600,000 or something like that. We really need to be thinking about what are those things, if you really want to do it, and it's going to go through, we really need to get such a significant amount of value engineered things that we're going to take out of the building to put that back in, right? Because we know it's unrealistic to think we're going to get $2.4 million worth of savings on bid day. I hope I'm wrong, but that's a pretty big number.
But are we better bundling the exterior with the project now?
Yes.
And saying that it's, 15 million out of pocket for Rowley, including the 2.4, or whatever is that right now, 18, it'd be 20 million out of pocket for Rowley, basically, when all is said and done, rather than in 2 years going back to the well and saying, hey,
Yep.
guys, can we have another override so we can do the circulation and finally do what we should have done 2 years ago? When everything's all dug up, why don't we just, my mind is just do it. Live through the pain once.
Yeah, and that's a decision that you guys need to make, but as your design team, right, or as your project team, we need to figure out, what are we calling our schematic design package, right? And what are we going to have that final estimate that we're going to price right, that the MSBA is gonna say, okay, that's your project, and this is what I'm willing to reimburse you on. Because that's what they need for the 3011. And then we're gonna sit down and we're gonna say, okay, it's this scope, and it's this cost, and you're gonna get, this much from us, and you're gonna have to raise this, right? So there's kind of one school of thought is, which get that so you know what it is, you know what you're going to get, and then there's kind of the hope on some of this other stuff that you might get it. So typically what we like to see is we like to have ad alternates, so that if you have bid day savings, you can add some of that stuff back in. And they need to be reasonable in terms of how they piece back into the building, because design is very linked.
So exterior circulation is probably not a reasonable alternative. because we
It
don't
is,
know
but
what
you
we're
vote,
buying.
but it's so big,
Yeah, you're
right,
right.
that you're
Big.
probably not gonna have that much savings
Right.
on bid day to go and say, because the town said, I'm gonna give you $10, but you need that much more. You know what I mean?
But without knowing the costs of each item on option B, and not exactly, but at least a ballpark, we can't really look at it and say, oh yeah, to get that 2.4 million, we have to eliminate 10 line items.
Yes,
And
and that's some.
totally unreasonable,
No, we would have to do that, right? But I wanted to get this on the table because I don't think it's really been discussed, is,
Right.
Yeah.
now we need to look at, right, if that's something that, we're really serious about, then we have to go through that exercise of starting to look at what some of those, value engineering opportunities might be.
I thought you were gonna do that anyway.
Well, we can, but we need to, how deep are we trying to go here? Because, if we're trying to get to
2.4 million.
No.
Well, and that's fine, we can say that, right? And then that's what we're gonna do. And then you're gonna have $2.4 million worth of what we're going to take out of the building to make it kind of a net zero type thing. And that's fine, right? But, those are gonna be significant, cuts. And so if everybody's that serious about it, that's what we wanna do, we're certainly going to do that. But, we need to look at it if it's something that when you really think about it, and think about when we say taking $2.4 million, we'll tell you right now, it's gonna be pretty serious.
Right.
Are you gonna be willing to make that, or are we just going through kind of an exercise? Because I'd prefer to focus, most of our team's time, which is short as it is, okay, to getting and doing the best job that we can in putting the schematic design package together. So I just know, right, because we've been here long enough together, that $2.4 million, okay, of cuts from the building, it will create a significant amount of tension, okay, on the part of Christine for sure, because it's a lot of stuff that we can take out. We're not talking about reducing square feet. It's going to be hard.
Could the $2.4 million be a one-time override for the town to pay at a town meeting? Is that, I don't know how that would.
No, we're gonna
I
package this all
don't know.
together, I would think. right?
Well, actually, I thought Larry's idea of presenting it to town meeting in separate articles,
That's correct.
I think
That's a
that's a
good
good
point.
one. Let the people in town decide if they want to.
Yeah.
But the only problem with
And it
that is he won't be able to design, he's not gonna spend all the money designing something that it may or may not happen. I mean, you're putting a bid package together, for May, pretty much, right?
Yeah, and as Jane actually pointed out correctly, it's not really $2.4 million worth of savings, right? It's basically, that's all of yours. You're not gonna get reimbursed on that.
Yeah.
So we're gonna have to actually, get more than that out of the building. It's gonna be more like, $3.5 to $4 million that we're gonna be taking out of the building to get you $2.4 million of site.
I just think that if the site work that's being proposed is as important, if not more important, than some of the stuff that you're doing in the school. I think it would be wrong for this committee to go forward and not do any site work. And because when the day comes when the school's finished and the site isn't done the way it is outside, I
It's a
think
safety concern.
I think it's
Circulation
gonna be
here is
a
awful.
a
No
negative on
questions
us.
here.
But I think that
Just because the state isn't going to reimburse us for that bit doesn't mean that it shouldn't be a valid part of the project. I think that if we as a committee can say, listen, the state's not going to reimburse us for it. However, in order to make this school as functional as possible for the next
And
50
safe as
years,
possible.
and as safe as, yes, and as safe, that there need to be significant alterations made. It is they're not gonna pay for septic either. Does that mean we're not gonna do septic? Last time I checked, I think we're gonna do septic. So the thing is, if we can, as part of the communication process, make people understand that there are going to be things that are not going to be reimbursable, that we as a committee and we as a community need to support, because it's in the best interest of the school, the community, the everything. That's that's the argument there. Just because the state, the state's not gonna pay, seriously, back to septic. We can't not do it just because the state's not going to reimburse us for it. And I think that when we do the entire project, that glaring omission of circulation is gonna make people say, why did you do, why not?
Spend all the money
Spend the
and
money,
you
Well,
spend it now.
The biggest thing is that it's the first thing they see in the morning and the last thing that they
Yep.
see at night. And it's
Yep.
very visible.
Yep.
They're not gonna see a new septic tank
Nope.
or a new boiler or stuff like that.
However,
It's
they'll
gonna
know
be
that it
big.
no longer takes you 20 minutes to get out of the parking lot, because you're stuck, because the buses are in place, or because of whatever else.
And I don't
Or
know
because
what-
little kids are darting out all over. It's hazardous out there. Holy
I don't know what
cow.
the impact is of $3 million in the tax rate. Maybe Karen, no, I have a rough idea.
Not right off the
Not
top
right?
of my head.
Okay, but I mean, $3 million is really round numbers of
Yeah.
whatever.
But it's
I-
taking the project from 18 to 20, basically, when it comes right down to it.
So-
Which is still a bargain when you consider that, what they're doing to the police and fire station, given the size of this building and the scope of change, I think.
So
I
that,
think it,
I don't think
what,
that's-
what I've been saying for many months, I have to get my 2 cents in on this. I really feel that you're gonna have a hard enough time selling $17.5 million.
But let's do it
You're
right.
not gonna sell
Let's do it
$20
right,
million.
though. You know what I'm saying?
You gotta do it right,
17
Joe.
or 20, I mean, let's do it right.
Do
I
it
mean,
right, do it
that's
once,
not
get
a-
it done.
To me, that's not
You
an
can,
extra.
you can build it to a point where you're not gonna get anything.
Yeah.
Right, it's binary.
But
It's yes or no.
It's just not gonna happen.
I can see your philosophy, but I just, the number's too big. We can't afford the 3 million and we can't cut out.
Well, we
$3
can't,
million.
we can't afford not to do it. That's my opinion.
Was
I mean,
there
it's
a
part of the
middle-
project.
Was there a
Safety
middle
concern.
site one? Because there was one where the circulation went back behind the building. Is that the $3 million one?
no, there's, this is,
Both of them about
there's
the
a lot,
same.
they're about the same, right?
Yeah.
But the $3 million, okay, is what you'd have to take out of the building,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Okay, to get to the $2.4 million, or,
Yep.
it's
Yep.
like 3.7 or 3.8.
Correct.
So my question for you, because I think you're going to have this discussion, right? Like you're saying, should we spend the extra money? But what we need to know is, do you want us, in order to get to that 2.4 million, to go find $3.5 million to $4 million worth of project scope that's currently in your plan and take that out
No.
to get there?
Well, it depends what the cuts are. I mean, that's a hard question to answer.
Yeah, but
It's too much of a cut.
It's
Yeah.
going to
You're
be
gonna
big.
lose.
It's going to
Take-
be big.
take
But maybe
maybe the
there's a
windows.
medium place
Maybe
somewhere.
take out
Windows are,
some of
that's
it.
easy, but,
Yeah,
you
say
know.
100,000, so if that's all you
Yeah.
get, that's all you get.
So, I think I would like to suggest, I think thank you for bringing up the issue.
Just thought I'd share.
I
And you didn't even bring chocolate tonight, sheesh.
Exactly. So, I'm gonna say to Chris Quinn, I think the challenge for WT Rich is clear. Because I think that what this committee needs next is some help from the CM, with figuring out how to look at this as the detailed design.
Can I just say, when we talk about, value engineering windows, which that sounds like one of the things that was talked about, if you want to put windows in later on, you're going to have a lot of other work that goes back into the
Right,
building,
right.
disruptions, more so than what you would if you just did a site work out front later on.
Yeah.
I mean, so this, like Brad said, that's a lot of money to take out of a project.
And you're not going to want to go back to the well in 2 years to say, it's finally time to correct the circulation. I know it's a tough number to swallow. However, if you still look at the messaging around this and say, we either do it now and the state pays for half of most of it, or we do it later and the state's not going to pay for any of this. We took the chance to do this right,
Yeah, but
to
the
make
state's not
substantive
gonna
change.
pay for any of the site
You're not going to pay
work.
for any of the site work, but are you going to really go for an override in 2 or 3 years to correct it? It's going to be, it's a safety issue out there. Have you seen it? It's
That's a
not
very good
good.
way of doing it, going back in 2 or 3 years. and
Then
say,
they're,
hey.
and then the town is gonna ask, why didn't you do it when our taxes already went up for this project? Why
Right.
didn't you do it
And
as
it's
part of the
$3 million.
project?
Yeah, it's
Do
very
it
easy.
once, do it right.
The-
Do
the
it once,
town-
do it
The
right.
town didn't vote for it, okay?
It wasn't put before
We
them.
didn't give them the opportunity to vote for it.
Is there a list of voters? Is there like just a list of all the voters in the town?
Mhm.
That's where I thought we were going
think
with
we're
this,
going-
but
I
it
thought we-
vectored off.
Yeah, it's right outside the town
So
clerk's
what
office.
we were saying, and I think this was your brainchild, Larry, I want to take credit, is you break those into two parts. Right? So, you know, if you think it's worth it, right?
Offer
then-
a second
then-
for
then-
override?
Then you vote for two.
Well, you know, actually,
don't,
funnily
vote for
enough,
one.
if you guys look at this, the Norton thing, Norton was doing basically this on the stack side. They had the high school and they had a track and bleacher project. And people were voted for them individually.
Did they both pass?
And they both passed.
Okay.
Were they
And
both reimbursed by the state? Is it,
no,
Not the
because
track.
one was not
Track and
reimbursed.
bleachers
The
wouldn't
track and
be,
bleachers
no.
thing was totally just a town project. So, you know, that's what it would look like, if you want to see a picture of what that would look like. You know,
And it might cost us more because we'll have to redesign or design the site work after the election, but we'll at least know. We go ahead now without it,
Yeah.
knowing that it's gonna be an option at
Yeah.
the town meeting. And that way the people will feel more committed. Hey, you know, do I wanna spend an extra 2.4 million that's not gonna be fully, you know, refunded by the state? You know,
be funded at all?
well, that's not fully. But, you know, it gives them a choice.
8% of costs of exterior,
No, I don't
correct?
think so.
No.
External?
What's that?
No.
I thought there was a
2.4.
reimbursement of up to 8%. There's an 8% number.
Yeah, no, you're right.
This is over and above.
That's
The
over
two
and
point
above
four.
the
2.4 is
8%.
over and above.
Okay, well,
Because we're saying that right now,
so
you
what's
know,
included in that 8% right now? Septic, I assume?
no,
No, it's the basic, like,
Handicap
the
access.
landing.
going and
Okay.
taking care of your walkways,
Right.
your accessibility, playground, you know, when we have to go and put in utilities, you know, out to the site. Stuff that
electrical
he's gonna have to
service.
go and price because he knows he's gonna, you know, ruin things and then have to go back and fix them because he's gonna be driving equipment over them and it's in bad shape now. And so, you know, while we won't price that as part of our scope, he's gonna price it because he knows it's part of the cost of doing the work. So, you know, that's why that 8% is gonna get eaten up.
So Brad, you mentioned the playground. I thought the playground was not part of the 8% with a
The-
limited
the
scope.
playground isn't, but there's,
Just
he
the
needs to
mulching
get
or whatever?
accessible
Okay,
and
but not the playground structures.
probably the
Correct.
resurfacing of that area to make it be
Okay.
compliant.
Because I believe the
Yeah.
PTA has already verbally committed to doing the structures.
They haven't, but.
We're not, we haven't
that I
looked
know
at
of.
structures,
They did a meeting.
replacing
They
those
did.
structures,
They
we're
did.
just
Did
talking
they?
about
Okay.
making it
I missed that.
handicap accessible.
But that was back in September.
So, you know, I'm pretty sure that you'll chew through that money pretty quick, okay, for that 8%, because, you know, the size overall is not that large. So that, you know, unless you want us to take out, you know, somewhere between $3.5 and $4 million of the building to support that, you know, you need to tell us that, and we do it. And I can tell you right now, it will be very painful. If you don't want us to do that, then we'll just, you know, say, okay, you know, you looked at it and put it away, and maybe you come back and do it another day. Or you can look at it and say, let's put that together, right? And we would carry it potentially, you know, on, at town meeting and, you know, the ballot as a separate item. And if you want to do that, okay, we're more than happy to do that. So those are your, I think, the choices that you have.
Three
You know,
options.
So
we got
basically,
you,
do
you know, you
nothing.
paid the cost of entry
Leave it
to
as
figure
it
out how much it was gonna
Yeah.
cost, you're in for that. We'll take care of the design, the one caveat, it was now we have to bring in a landscaper, and we'll deal with these guys on that. That's a little bit, but not a lot. And then you could go and get, right, you know, the schematic design that could be prepared, and it could be submitted, you know, in conjunction with this other project, if you would like us to do it that way.
And we don't need to decide tonight. we should put it on the agenda for
Yeah.
the next week.
Well, I guess the reason Brad's talking about is there's like 6 weeks for us to do the
Yeah,
design.
we are
So
like really busy right now. We need to.
We're gonna talk about the
So you
landscape
do need
architect.
to know
Yeah,
tonight.
you know, we
Yeah.
can, well, we can process eliminate some of this out, right? The first one is, okay, you know, do you want us to take, you know, roughly $3.5 to $4 million out of the building to support that?
I don't think anyone wants that.
No.
Okay, that's good. Then we
Yeah.
know what we're doing
Do
with
we all
respect to
agree
the
on
building.
that?
Correct.
Right.
Well, is that taking out the windows is a
Well,
possibility? Some of it.
I think we need the
Be-
windows,
That's not gonna
though.
touch it.
Really.
Yeah, we're
Windows-
not
It's
asking.
not
we're
even
talking all or
close.
nothing.
Well, I guess there's
You're
there's
talking
four
about no
options.
new floor, you're talking about
Can we
not,
have
you know-
one at a time? One at a time.
No, my question is that question that you're asking us, is that 3.4 or 0, or can we chew at it, you know, so to speak? Maybe the windows at some point.
We can certainly look at putting, you know, as part of your base, and actually, I would probably think this would be a good idea. As part of that option, we would value engineer out, okay, the windows, right? You tell me if I go off wire here. And then what we could do is carry a add-alt for those windows.
Yeah, that's
So,
okay, yeah.
so,
Right,
so
'cause that's more
therefore,
reasonable for bid savings.
Yeah.
correct. So
Yeah.
that way, what we would do, okay, is if in a situation where the bids came in high on bid day, you know, or hopefully if they came in low on bid day, then we could add the windows back.
Right, that's the way to go.
You know,
Yeah.
but we're building in some conservative, you know, posture there
A way
towards
to make
that
sure
on
you get
bid
to
day.
the number.
Right.
I mean, are there other things like the flooring? I think we,
Flooring is going to be really hard here because everything's going to be active, right? And so, you know, you're going to have people, this is going to be, you're going to break it down by wings, and everything's going to be a construction site, and to a large extent, everything's going to get ripped apart.
no, I don't mean to eliminate it, but wasn't there
Options, you mean?
a
Cheaper
small,
tiles or
a less expensive flooring option we could,
Yeah.
Yeah.
could
Floors.
value
And
in?
the roof options
Mm-hmm.
there were some roof options there.
Yeah.
So I think what Brad's saying is we can continue, and
We'll
we
go
hear
down
that you
and
wanna,
do those.
you wanna look
Right.
at some cost
Well, that's, I think,
efficiencies.
the-
Right,
We'll
so I
present
mean,
that,
can you
but-
eat away at some of that $2.4 million?
You're not going to. What we're telling you is we don't think you're going to get there, and it's not 2.4. It's like 3.8.
Right, and you're not gonna get all the way there, but at least you may
But
eat
you're
away
n-
at some of that.
But you're not going to do half of the parking lot, because if you tell us to
Well-
design the whole parking
But
lot.
I think it's two separate questions. Karen's
Yeah.
question is, please promise me that we're gonna put pressure on looking at the pieces to pull the overall project, the building
To look for
costs
ways
down.
to save
We
money.
committed to
Yeah. That
Regardless of the
that's
site
what
issue,
it would be.
regardless of
Correct.
the site.
And
Yeah.
so the answer to that is yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
That is
Right.
part of
We'll
the
develop.
that.
We will develop, you know, a series of options, okay, that will help reduce the cost, and that can be
Give you choices.
Give you a choice, so that you on bid day you can make a determination based on a certain, because they all have to be prioritized, okay, on whether or not you want to implement them or not.
But basically, right now, what you want is a decision that, are we going to go with the building renovation for $17.5 million and an additional override for $2.4 million for the,
Yeah, do
I
you
think
want?
how you structure it is even, can still be put off, but we need to know, you know, the general direction we're going on the building design, because we gotta start designing, we can work on efficiencies, but we can do that design. And same thing with the site, we just need a direction, you know, are we going all out for the site, or are we doing a very restrictive site intervention?
Right.
So we have those two decisions and some reasonable expectations about where we're gonna end up, then we can go forward. But we don't wanna design a whole site and come back in 6 weeks and have you all say, well, that's $2.5 million. We don't want to do that. And
Yeah.
we've just spent 6 weeks working like crazy
It's just
to design
To
that.
get it done.
but we have to understand that it would be a separate override for $2.5 million.
I think that's right.
I
Yeah.
think that's the way to go.
Yeah.
Personally.
So do I, but what do I care?
And there's a lot of talk that it's
No.
not gonna pass. We haven't given people an opportunity to voice how they feel about it, and I think it's really need to do that.
This way it
Well,
becomes a
it can
will
be a
of the
voting
town
list.
issue.
Yeah, let the
Exactly.
town people
Yeah.
decide.
Yeah, you know, I think that makes.
Yes.
And this way, you're
Gives
not
people
putting
the
all your eggs in one basket, you know?
Exactly.
The number gets so
That's a good
big,
idea.
you could lose everything, you know?
Right, but you're also giving the town a chance to voice their opinion.
Exactly.
To get them more involved in the thing, all the more reason for them to come to the town meeting and vote.
Okay. Can I have a motion to put the site work on the override for $2.5 million?
That's an option.
On a separate override.
Separate override.
I'll make that
Do we
motion.
want to hold that number? Is that a good number?
I'll second it.
Whatever it is.
Well, we'll give you the number when we
Yeah.
get it, at that,
Just
when
put
we
it
do
on
the
a
final
separate
estimate.
override.
Yeah.
Second
Motion has been made and seconded to go for the override for the site work. And I'd like to,
Actually,
yes.
as a clarification, I think that's an issue for the selectmen to decide how it's put into the warrant, right? But you can certainly make a recommendation.
Right. I'd like to see, instead of ayes, so that we can record the vote, raise your hand, please. All those in favor?
Okay, that was easy.
None of those people
Any
are
opposed?
for it.
You should be safe on that one.
Start clicking them off there.
Well done, team.
Took us long.
So our next meeting is February 2nd.
Does that give Brad direction now?
Correct.
Brad, you're all set?
Yeah, I think so for now.
February 2nd. You want to
Yes. I'll have a motion.
I'll make that motion.
Motion has been made and seconded to adjourn.
Can
All
I
those in
just-
favor?
Could I just make one statement?
Yes,
This is
Chris.
I'd just like to thank Dora and Whittier. They provided me with some environmental consultant information that was very helpful, very concise for reporting to the state as we are required to. So we dovetailed that into our report to the state that had been done in conjunction with this project. So John Richardson was very courteous and got that to me promptly, and the state has it.
Well, I can't take any credit for it. It was commissioned as part of the study project, so it's a
Well,
benefit of
you
the study.
facilitated it to me, and I knew where to go to get it, and I have it. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe.
Take the cookies when they're passed.
Just one more comment before we take a vote. I'm glad W.T. Rich has joined our group.
Thank you, glad to be here.
And I hope you get us some good numbers for the fall town
Pressure's
meeting.
on,
I
Chris.
mean, the Springtown meeting. And Larry, I hope you're part of the group and we'll get a chance to talk.
Yes.
All those in favor of adjournment?
Aye.
Aye.
I've been up since 4.